What shaped me, I don't know. My mother certainly had a social conscience to the extent that I was aware of the Spanish Revolution when I was a very young person. I was aware of the rape of Nanking when the Japanese went into China. And then, of course, when I was 1939, so when I was 14, war was declared. And then, so 39 to 45 were essentially my growing up years. And I opposed the war, right? And did so even though I was very young. So I guess I just came by osmosis or something. My husband was a very principled person, a very fine person. And when Amnesty first formed under Benenson, I knew that if my husband had been in a different country, say in Russia, he would have been one of the disappeared. So I joined in London before it had even come to Canada, and have been a member ever since. And that was why I joined, because there's no doubt about it. People like the many that Amnesty helps, they need a voice.
Yes.
And I've stayed with AI for that reason, even though I certainly do other work, i.e. ADAPP.
Yes.
I've stayed with AI because I can be effective there also. And almost never when I give my email address out, AI Morgan, there's no problem hearing those letters. You don't need any explanation.
Yes.
But, and of course I'm M. Morgan. Why AI Morgan? And I always say, without being asked, stands for Amnesty International. Simply because I want to get the message out.
Is there something that you can share about what you found compelling about ADAPP's cause, well, or even Factor Zamani, that has continued this relationship?
Well, probably not, because I've done human rights work for a lot of years.
Yes.
And ADAPP is just one more situation of human rights work, you know. So there wouldn't have been, as far as I know, anything particular about it. It's just that here is a group that needs support. Yeah. But it could have been from any country. And so just this past week I've been helping a person in Singapore who has been jailed. And it's a fairly common occurrence. I've been asked to help somebody who's in Nigeria. So, you know, the work is very much more universal.
How does a human rights activist as yourself, who's always been doing work, sustain themselves?
That's a very, very good, complicated question. I have talked about that and thought about that quite a bit. I was telling Facta yesterday that for many years I was quite a active member in what's called the Urgent Action Network. Do you know that?
I know, yes.
You know UAs? Well, if you've seen a UA, you know that the top part tells you the name of the person and what's happened.
Yes.
The middle part tells you what's happened to him. Mm-hmm. He's been beaten, he's disappeared, etc.
Yes.
The third part says where to write, or whom to contact.
Yes.
And when I was doing the work, and I was doing about 200 a month, distributing, etc., I said in the presence of another Amnesty person, I never read the middle. I don't have to know. If I've got faith in the organization, it doesn't matter to me what horrible things happen. It may be better that I don't know. You know, I just accept their word for it. I've got confidence in their research abilities, and I write on that basis. But I was taken to task for that by an Amnesty person. How could you not read the middle? Well, that person who said that is long gone, you know. He hasn't done Amnesty work for years. So, yeah, so the being able to sustain yourself has to mean, to some extent, you distance yourself.
Yes.
And if you don't, you become perhaps even useless. You take things too hard to such an extent that you can't function. Mm-hmm. and the functioning is what it's all about.
And you being a non-Iranian and you just caring about ADAPP as a human rights organization specifically, what would you say to a non-Iranian and the international community about how to help and what to do?
Well, of course, essentially all my contacts are not Iranian, except for those people whom I've met through FACTA. Well, that's not true. I have a friend who is Pakistani who married an Iranian to her husband, whose name is Reza. And I said, Reza, do you know anything about the Azerbaijanis? Oh man, you know, they weren't worth discussing. He's not Azerbaijani, obviously. He's something else.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of hostility there right within the various groups.
Yes.
You know, and I wrote, I think you know that I wrote to Heather Reisman, who's the president and CEO of Indigo Books.
No,
Well, Heather and a group of very prominent women, Belinda Stronach, the ex-MP for MP in Canada, and some dozen women of very large prominence have written about the stoning of the woman that's proposed in Iran right now. We are talking about individuals who have suffered and are suffering in a way that we can do something about. And you perhaps know that, I understand for a fact that when ADAPP gets hold of some individual and starts publicizing this person is jailed, this person's name is, that it's not unusual for Iran to back off. They just don't want this information out. And there's lots of other people they can jail. Now, going back to Amnesty again, there were no disappeared before Amnesty came along. Disappeared became a human rights issue after Amnesty. And so we found that eventually it became counterproductive, because if you disappear somebody and they're alive, you can still talk about them. Good luck to you.